and let's get started. So let's play a nice D major scale with the best intonation you've ever had in your life and the best sound.
Yeah, yeah, our sound better be better than that, though.
Oh, yeah, right. I tried to do my orchestra rehearsal on the iPad because Jennifer's computer completely died. It is done, and I took the iPad in and I did the Zoom class on the iPad, and it sounded like shit. It's not gonna work. We're gonna have to get a computer. I don't know what the difference is, but all I know is that on the iPad there are no audio settings. You can't change anything with the audio on the iPad, so that could be why. But anyway, bit disappointing. Okay, let's try our nice D major scale. Nice, bright, and cheery D major scale. Ready, go. I gotta say, I wasn't exactly perfect. We gotta do it again. Sorry. Same thing, except better. Ready, go. Well, that's better. That was really good that time. Okay, now let's see. Why don't we try a little bit faster, especially with the arpeggio, because those are the notes that we're going to be using in our double stop. So why don't we try scale and arpeggio a bit faster, and we're going to use it to test and see how your intonation is doing, especially on the arpeggio for when we do double stops. So let's do it kind of like that. Okay, one, two. Oh wait, somebody's not muted. I don't know who. It's David. There we go. I usually win the decibel wars anyway, David, but once in a while. Okay, here we go. One, two, three, go. Is it good? That's great. You know, I was thinking there's all kinds of ways that you can check and see how you're doing with a certain key. Has anybody ever heard of an octave in one bow? Is that something you've ever heard of? It's a great way to do a scale. You probably recognize it. See that? That's an octave in one bow. And that's a great way to see how your intonation is shaping up because you don't have a lot of time to kind of tune and fuss and mess around. And so you just kind of get your bow going. For some reason, it puts the pressure on. And you play the first note of the scale and then you just start lining them up. And then you change direction for the next octave. Keep your eye on the tuner and see how she's all going and watch her tendencies. Okay, it's a real good thing to do. I'm trying to think of other ways. Now we were talking. I was talking with this student about the 1 minute down bow. Has anybody ever heard of the 1 minute down bow? Yeah. The 1 minute down bow is where you try to play a down bow for a full minute. You got to slow your bow down. Now this was a person. I was telling her about it because she wants to improve her sound on the fiddle. It's one of the things that's holding her back. And it's one of the things that's making her bow arm not want to move because the sound is not good. And this is something that lots of people struggle with. So she wants to kind of go deep into it and figure out how to draw out a better sound. And I told her about the 1 minute down bow because that's really where you start to kind of work out the tiny little movements that you make as the bow moves towards the frog to keep your grip on the string and keep the motion going. But I tried it with her. I got to 35 seconds. I was never able to do it. I saw a guy on YouTube doing it, and he was the most successful guy. He got to a minute, certainly. He put all these marks on his bow. And I think that's what you got to do. You put all these little marks, and you got to try to budget. And what you're doing is you're slowing the bow down so much that you can actually hear the slip grip cycle that's going on. And in that way, you can kind of get sensitive with the bow on the strings and sort of make the most of that and be able to speed it up or slow it down or get more sound, more slip grip cycle out of it. Anyway, sounds terrible, eh, Paul? It sounds terrible even when you're doing it right. Like, let's see if I can do it. Oh, I gotta set my timer. I don't have my phone. Okay, will somebody keep track of a minute? Now you can see that there's no sound where my fingers touch the bow. None at all. That's about as good as I can do. I don't think that was. Oh, it was almost a minute. And so you can hear the sound. That's as kind of as good as it gets. Like you're listening to this kind of. It's like a motorbike slowed down. Basically, is what you're listening to there. I think it is a really good thing to do if you're somebody that wants to improve your sound and improve your touch of the bow into the strings and kind of just get the more control over it. It's a fun thing to try to do, but it does sound terrible even when you're doing it right. Okay. Anyway, okay. So now D major double stops. So we're going to try some bowing patterns. First of all, let's play the double stops. So that's down bow and up bow on each set of double stops. Let's give it a go. Ready, 2, 3, go. Okay, how's everybody doing with the double stops? Did it all work okay? Any weird things? Should we try one more? Let's do it one more time. Ready, go. Better? A little bit better? Good. Okay, now let's try one of those bowing patterns. Which one should we do first? Let's do this one here. Or should we go back and forth? Let's go back and forth. Like that. And so you're going to kind of try to, we can come off the strings with this. See that? And try to use your fingers to do it. So let's do it. We'll go on each one. Ready, 2, 3, go. All right, now while I was doing that, I was noticing I was trying to get the feel of hitting the strings and letting it hit the strings and come off once. Now, I'm a drummer, and we have something in drums called a double, a single stroke and a double stroke. So a single stroke is when you hit the drum and you let the stick bounce once, you know, it hits the drum once and you pick it up off the drum, and a double is when you let it bounce twice. Did it like that. See that? And it's kind of one of the first things you learn. And when you do a drum roll, that's a double on each hand, back and forth over and over, and it makes a drum roll. See that? And my teacher, when he had me do that, he had me start a drum roll like this. Right, right, left, left, right, right, using my muscles. See that? And then get faster and faster and faster to the point where you got to bounce them. And then you're making a drum roll. And then you slow it down and slow it down and slow it down until you're back to the muscled. See that? And I thought that it was a great way to do it because you really get the feel of the stick hitting the skin and what the skin does back. You know, in violin they call that resistance, the resistance of the string. So when you're doing those bounced little notes, you hear how those are working quite nicely? Like there's not a lot of crunch to them. They're coming out nice and clean. And that's why, because when I feel the bow get into the string, I feel the string give a little bit. And then come back up out of it. Let it out. Okay, let's try it again. And I am trying to let the bow bounce on its own. Okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. little better? Yeah? Good, good, good. That's a real good one. Now let's try this one here. I'm gonna put some rosin on this thing too. Which should I use today? I think I'm going to go with the old Melantaroo because although I love my Baker's rosin, it's a bit, it lacks a little bit of oomph. And this thing is getting pretty well done. See that? She's at the point of needing a rehair very soon. Which is a drag because it's the best rehair I've ever had. Yes. You gotta unmute. You can do it.
Mute. There I am. Okay. Yeah, speaking of bow rehairs, I know I talked to you a little bit about that last week.
Yes.
On Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, my daughter's here. On Wednesday, we're all going to London,
Oh yeah.
okay, to meet with a luthier there,
Nice.
and he does bow rehairs.
Oh good.
Okay, so he's going to redo my bow hair, which has never been done since I bought the bow. That was like
Neat.
about 6 years ago. So it is. I have not had a bow rehair for 6 years.
Oh,
Uh,
that's gonna be nice.
yeah, I'm looking forward to what that's going to be. Going to be like a little bit.
Yeah, do
So
you get to? Are you gonna get to watch him do it?
I'm not sure. I've never dealt with this guy before. So
And this is in London, eh? London, Ontario.
London,
Wow,
yeah,
that's
London, Ontario.
it's only a couple hours from me. I wonder who it would be. But I got to see it done once. It was really cool. Pierre Schreier showed everybody how to do it up at Algomatran, and I highly recommend it. It was really cool to see it done. But I think you're going to enjoy your rehair there, David. I'm jealous now.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay, now let's try this here. Check this out. Now this is the really tough one because you got to go hand, 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 arm, arm, and you have to be strict with yourself and make sure you're not using your arm when you're supposed to be using your hand. Okay, let's give it a try. Ready, 2, 3, go. Next. Next. Jeez, man, that's such a difference. I haven't used Melantaroo for a while, and that is such a big difference. It's a lot grabbier than the Baker's rosin that I've been using. It's interesting, but I'm glad it's on there because it's going to give me kind of a good baseline. Anyway, how did that feel for everybody? Let's do it again right away. I feel like I could do better. Let's do it. Ready, 2, 3, go. good. Mine was nice. How about you guys? Are you getting the hang of it? Is it getting better as you go along? Better sound quality and intonation is okay? Okay. One more, because another question that came up this week with some people is stopping the bow. Stopping cleanly. Okay? So I want to try this one here. See that? Clean stop. So I'm going to go down. Stop it cleanly. Up. Stop it. Up. Stop it. Down. See how that works there? Really good practice for stopping and starting, which we got to do a lot in our music. So let's give that a try. Down, up, up. Ready, 2, 3, go. Now, how did that go? How's your stopping? It's okay. Now, when you stop the bow, you're going along. When you're in a car and you come to a stop sign, you put the brakes on, hopefully, unless you were my dad and just roll through every one. And he would roll through a stop sign and I'd say, Dad, you didn't even stop there. And he'd say, I stopped there yesterday. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so when you do approach a stop sign or whatever, you put the brakes on and you feel the cab of the car move forward, right? And if it didn't allow to move forward, then when you put the brakes on, everybody would kind of go, ugh, you know? So when you're with the bow, you kind of do the reverse of that. So your hand stops and your fingers and your hand, you let that energy into it. See that? So you stop and then when you get going again, it's like a jellyfish. See that? And so you stop and you let that go. Then you get going again. Okay, so you kind of like keeping your knees bent. Let's try it again. Ready, go. That work okay? Any questions about stopping? Because, it's different for everybody. That's the crux of it, is just allowing the hand. Do you see how that worked there? How when I stopped, my hand stopped and I let my fingers keep going. Okay, and then when I get going again, drag it. See if I can do it a few times. You getting the idea? Let's do it one more time. Ready, go. Audrey's hand looks pretty good. Like, I see flexibility. And for a lot of people, like this woman I was working with earlier this week, or last week, she had a tiny little bit of a flexibility by the end of it. Tiny bit. And that's how it starts. And you work on it. And you get it to be more flexible. And more flexible. With more control. And you guys know about your bow push-ups, right? Bow push-ups. Very, very good thing to do. Okay? Any questions about any of that? Or comments? Or dismays? Or complaints? Okay. Let's get out Jenny Dang the Weaver. And we're going to work it up before we do the set. Man, the N is not working very good on my keyboard. It's driving me nuts a little bit. All right, Jenny Dang the Weaver. Has everybody done this tune before? Like played it before at some point in their history of time? Yes. Okay, that's good.
No, this is I first time I played it was this past week.
Oh,
when
okay.
you sent the.
Yep. How did you get along?
Well, I mean, I still struggle with the jig, not the jig. The jig groove, I feel like I've got down. The real
Okay.
groove, I feel like I don't have down. The one, like the emphasis on the second beat, and yeah, I just don't.
It's hard.
The thing with Drowsy Maggie, part A, at least, like it's just the emphasis on the second one comes out so obviously.
Yes.
But with this one or any other, when I play reels, like I learn all the notes, but then I feel like I'm playing it all wrong.
I'll tell you what.
Doesn't matter if I know all the notes.
I'm glad you know all the notes. That definitely helps in playing it right. But I'll tell you what. In this tune, it's kind of a no-brainer too, especially for the first part, because the cuts happen on the two. So then that leaves the only one you have to really pound out then is that second open A.
Okay.
And then same in the second bar. Just that E there. So try to remember that. So sometimes tunes are kind of set up for you so that you don't have to worry about it so much. And in the first part of this one would be like that. The second part is a little different, and you might try it with the longbow style. That kind of forces things. Because that kind of forces the issue. If you do everything in the up bow except beat 2 and 4 in the second part, it will come out.
Sorry, one more time. Everything in the second part.
Everything in the up bow except beat 2 and 4.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about the end of 2 and 4. Like those are going to be up bows as well. I just mean beat 2 and beat 4 would be the only down bows in the measure.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Watch me do it again. It's called longbow style, the Irish West Coast Irish longbow style. Watch this.
Yeah, I think I just need to get comfortable playing that way because I actually remember much earlier, before you covered it, around like, bow it with this bowing pattern, and it just feels like I'm just jerking my arm down,
For the down bows?
It feels so very unnatural. Yeah, for the down bow on the, it feels unnatural, but I don't know.
Yeah. It gets natural. Like
Okay.
it feel for a lot of what I call white people, especially, it feels unnatural at first. It does, and you have to force it. That's why this particular exercise is good because it really does force it. You know, you
Okay.
can do the same product with single bow. Like you can have the same product, but it's trickier. Okay.
Okay. I see.
So the longbow style, and you'll find that you won't have to force it for every tune. Like
Okay.
and this is a good example of the second part of this tune because it's mostly eighth notes, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when it really starts to work.
Mm.
Okay, so it would be worth going in and writing in the bowing for that second part, just for the first two bars, and then do the whole thing that way. Uh, if you really want to get that, really force the issue and get that working. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anyway,
I
let's
appreciate it.
go through it.
Yeah.
Since you know the notes, let's go through it nice and easy, and we'll work it up a little bit in tempo. And that's the other thing. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do slow.
Mm.
Okay. So let's see. Maybe kind of a 1, 2, 3, go. A little faster. One more. Now everybody looked like they were happily trucking along there without any difficulty at all. How did you feel? How did everybody feel about that at that tempo? No problems?
It was a titch fast.
You found it a titch fast there, Susan? By the end? What was getting in your way?
I just the part that looks the easiest, which is the second part.
Yeah, it's a little relentless. One thing to remember about the second part, if to get away from the music, because that might help. Sometimes reading slows you down. Is each little scale up? There's 3 little scales up. One starts on the D, the next one starts on the E, and then the next one starts on the D again. See how that works there? So it's like 3 little scales up, and they're always the same. D up the scale, E up the scale, D up the scale. And then you do your little da-da-dee, da-da-da, and then you do it again. D up the scale, E up the scale, and then you do your little trick. And then D up the scale, E up the scale, D up the scale, you do your little trick. You get the idea? Might help. Might help. Now, how about you, Paul? You were going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say like, well, first of all, so this is like, this has cuts in it. That's a cut. And first of all, I don't really know if I know if I'm doing a cut right. First of
Ah,
all, that's one thing. And then the second thing is it feels easier, a lot easier if I slur those first two notes from the down bow and come back up. That seems easier to me than I get way
try
too many
this.
notes. Okay, so sorry. Sorry, so you're saying it is easier for not just like it's just
No, try this. Try up, up, diggity.
oh okay, maybe easier.
Now, the other
Yeah.
thing is, you're not quite doing the cut right, and I'm glad you asked about it.
Okay.
A cut is 2/16 notes and an eighth note, right? So you got to lengthen the last note of a cut. See that?
Okay.
Yeah, try that.
Two up boats?
Yeah,
Two up bows or
yeah.
no, that's not enough, right?
It's da da da. No, you keep turning it around. It's quite remarkable, actually. You're doing that. You're doing four
Okay.
notes. Okay,
Okay,
try
so
this. Try this. No, good.
I just have
No,
to practice. Okay.
but always down. So cuts always happen on a down. They don't work on an up bow.
Ah, okay.
Okay, it's a kind of a down bow trick. So watch this. See that? So that's kind of the rhythm that you get going with that lick. Up, up, digga day, deedle, up, digga day, deedle, diddle, see what I mean? Now, the cut itself, the best place to do it is in this part of the bow, the upper third of the bow, and you go down, up, down, and the last note's longer. See that? Yeah, and you gotta kind of chuck it away. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Now you're kind of doing the typical thing I've seen people do when they're trying to do cuts, which is this. But it's actually longer, it's bigger. See that? Now, has anybody heard of a tune, an annoying tune, called Crossing the Minch or McNabb's Hornpipe? Have you heard of that tune? Okay, this is Crossing the Minch. Okay, that's Crossing the Minch. I'm sure you've heard it. It's a very common tune. It's a 4-part tune. The last part, I think, is the best 8 bars that there is for doing cuts, for practicing cuts. So I'll play the whole tune. It's kind of boring because it's a Highland pipe tune. It's kind of samey, but I'll do it anyway. That's the first part. Second part. Third part. Fourth part. So that's Crossing the Minch. Old favorite. It's definitely one to get. I find it boring, but I have been playing it since I was about 8 years old, I think, something like that. So I could be getting a little bit worn dry of it. But, like I said, the last part I think is the best exercise for practicing cuts because not only do you practice the cut, but you practice the very important up that happens right after every cut you do. Because when you do a cut, that interrupts your bowing pattern. And so you're going down, up, dig it up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And it's not near as good. So you need to correct your bowing pattern. So every time you do a digita or a cut, the next 2 eighth notes you're going to go up bow. So when you do the last part of McNabb's, check this out. So I just made people loop that, and you up, digita, up, digita, up, digita. And you do that about 300, 400 times, you start getting good at it, I swear to God. So yeah, so I'll just do it again so you can see. I just kind of changed it a little bit to make it into an exercise. Okay, so that I find that's the best way to. Now, did you notice when I was doing those cuts, it was kind of like dig-a-da. See that? Dig-a-da. And that's kind of how the real estate that it uses, dig-a-da. Now, as you go faster, of course, you use less real estate, but you're still trying to get a good spread in there. Okay. This tune is great for practicing cuts too. You got to make sure you get your up. Now, yeah. So you would up the A and the F. In the second bar, you don't have to do an up because it's followed by a quarter note. See, and that corrects your bowing for you. And then in the third bar, you'd have to do an up to the B to the A. Okay? And it's the same exact setup for the second part. So that's how you do it. Now, does that answer your questions about cuts? Always on a down, upper part of the bow, and that's about how much real estate they use. Dig-a-da. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's always on the down bow. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Good tip for
And
that tune. And what's that tune? I guess I can watch the recording. I'll find out.
It's called McNabb's Hornpipe, or Crossing the Minch is the other name for it. The Minch is the body of water between Scotland and Ireland.
Got it.
And I guess they were crossing it. They were always crossing it, weren't they? It's not that big. You know, you could do it in a skin boat if you were a monk back in 900 or something like that. Might have to fight off a few Vikings. I found out that's a verb. Viking is a verb. So going out and robbing and pillaging and taking your neighbor's stuff and everything, that's Viking. You go. So you and the boys, what are you going to do this weekend? We're going to go do some Viking. Go over to England. Take all our stuff. Okay, let's practice this tune again. Then we'll try the set. 1, 2, 3, go. right after. It's the same key. Anyway, that go okay? Is it settable? Can we stick it in the set? I think we should. Let's do it. So we're doing Earl, Back of the Change House. Cameron's Got His Wife Again. Are we doing that one? No? So what was it? It was the Earl, the Back of the Change House. Do we have another Strathspey or? No? Just right into the Jenny Dang? Yeah, let's do it. Okay. And then maybe we'll have a look at McNabb's. I just got to take a little shout at my little girl and see what she's doing. She's supposed to be doing homework. Me and the girl are...
You did
What?
mention Cameron, but we never did anything with it.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, we'll get it at some point. It's a great tune. It's one of the first ones I learned. I'm on my own with Sylvie tonight because Jennifer got a surprise tickets to go to the opera and took Jerome. It's amazing. My boy is amazing. She's like, "Hey, Jerome, you want to go to the opera tonight?" And my 13-year-old boy says, "Yeah, love to go to the opera." So off they went. It's a good thing, I think. Okay, let's see if we can squish these tunes together. Here we go. I'll give you a good count in. 1, 2, 3. I kind of slammed into the reel a little bit quick there. Sorry about that. Any survivors? Yeah, is it okay? Well, that's good. How are your cuts, Paul? You're still muted.
Sorry, I just wish I didn't practice it the wrong way because now I have to unlearn what I learned a little bit. But yeah,
You know, don't unlearn anything.
okay.
Because my buddy Pierre Schreier, who's been a Grandmaster Canadian Fiddle Master twice, uh, told me once that he purposefully learned how to do cuts going backwards just in case he ever got going wrong, like to get out of a tough scrape. Because, and he said that when he was doing the competitions, he would purposefully practice a reel backwards, bowing it backwards, just in case he ended up backwards, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And because with fiddle, it really is a collection of tricks, you know? Some of them are your own as well. But if you can do up cuts on an up bow, I wouldn't stop. You know, it's just very rare. You know what I mean? Definitely the down bow is going to be the more powerful one, but like it's not really unlearning; it's just adding to it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah. Now I think I
Yeah,
got
fair
going
enough.
into that reel a bit quick. Shall we try the? Shall we try it again? David looks like he's about to say something.
Yeah, yeah. I was just trying to unmute my
I can
mute.
tell.
Um, I know the concept that we're supposed to do the Earl slowly. We
Yeah.
speed up for the Strathspey and we speed up more for the reel.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there's no set rule though as to how much you speed up? And
It all
that's
depends on. It's not rules. Well, I mean, it depends. If you're playing for dancers, then it does. There is rules. So you got to get up there. You got to get like dancing, step dancing speed is about 114, I think, for a reel. For a jig, it's 110 or something, 112, something like that. So it's up there, you know. Because the thing is, when you're playing for dancers, whether it's a single step dancer or a social dance, you can't do that slowly, right? You can't really do the moves slow. See, it has to be up at a tempo. Strathspeys as well. They have a kind of a now marches. Nobody's dancing to a march, so that's kind of open ended, and people play them at all different tempos. You just got to imagine marching. One of the big problems that people have when they put together MSRs, that's what they call this March Strathspey reel set, is they don't leave enough headroom for the Strathspey. So they play the march up at a tempo where they can't speed up for the Strathspey. You see what I mean? And the march ends up sounding the same as the Strathspey. And you don't want that. You want there to be a definite, you know, contrast between the two types of tunes.
yeah, I get that.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
think I probably could have done a bit better this time around with that contrast. Because, oh, and the other thing is, you always have to think to yourself, especially when you're at this level, how fast can I play my reel? And you judge everything else off of that. Because you can't,
Hmm.
you know, that's kind of your weakest link, right? So you gotta play to that strength. So you look at the reel, you see how fast can I play the reel. If the reel is up at like 90, then you're gonna have a certain tempo for the Strathspey, and then another one for the march. If the reel is at like 60, you gotta change your tack.
It's kind of like I heard somebody that writes murder mysteries once saying that they have to be written backwards. You have to start with the end and move backwards like that, dropping the hints and the clues and everything,
That's
as
I
you go
can
along.
understand that. I get it.
Yeah, because this is sort of the same idea.
It is.
Start with the maximum speed and then, okay, what do I have to do? What do I have to
Yeah,
do?
you got to find your ceiling, and then you just kind of set up the step ladders as you need them, right? But you don't want to be surprised at that ceiling. That's kind of, I mean, that can be the difficulty that we get into. And in fact, the best way to work on sets is going backwards. And with my orchestra, that's always how we work on sets. last tune first. Like we learn all the tunes, but then when we're putting them together with transitions, always backwards. It works out really, really well. Anyway, let's do it again. And I'm going to judge those speeds a little bit better this time. And I'm going to give you a warning before we get to that reel, because I spaced out. I get right into the tunes. I close my eyes. Next thing you know, I'm imagining that I'm Michael Coleman sitting on the back of a wagon. Yeah, you know, one of my favorite stories about Michael Coleman was when he left Gurteen, which is the tiny little village in Sly. I was there a couple times. He was on the back of a wagon, and the driver was dragging him, and he was going to get the ferry. And he's sitting on the back of the wagon, and he's playing the fiddle. And his father is following the wagon on foot. And he followed him, and Michael Coleman apparently played on the back of that wagon until his father couldn't hear the fiddle anymore. And he just kind of saw it at the distance. Isn't that a remarkable story? That is something else. Because in those days, when you left, you were never coming back. That's like, you might as well be dying, right? You're going over to America, you're not going to come back for Christmas. Okay, let's do it. Nice and slow for this march. 1, 2, 3. Now that looked like it worked out a little bit better. You got to plan the speeds for these MSRs, that's for sure. Now, before we go, I'm going to go a little early tonight because I want to make sure Sylvie's not, just doing YouTube endlessly. I asked her if she watches me on YouTube. She was like, no. Boring. I want to take a look at McNabb's hornpipe. I think it'd be a really good one for us to practice. Just going to see if I can get a good version.
You're sending that one to us, are you?
Yeah. McNabb's hornpipe. Okay, let's see. Good version of McNabb's. Ooh, traditional tune archive. That's one of my favorite resources for tunes. Yeah, it's only got 3 parts, and it's not right. Not right. Try this session.org.
I have one from the session.
Yeah, I'm looking at looking at the session right now. I hate when they write it out with dotted. I don't know why they do that. Let's see here. No, there's not very many versions. Okay, this one works though. What number on the session are you working with, Lisa?
Oh,
Or somebody?
oops. I'm not sure because it's already downloaded and it doesn't give the numbers when it does that. But
Right.
it's a 2-pager, but it has 5 sections.
5? There's supposed to be 4.
4. There's 4.
4. Okay. I think it's number... Oh, Leprechaun, he's usually good. Number 4. Now, unfortunately, it's dotted. But we'll just have to live with that. And it's all on one page, which is nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm just going to send this to everybody. Crossing the Old Minch. Sandy, okay. Crossing the Minch. Oh, I wish my hands worked. There we go. Okay, so I just sent the good version, and it's on my YouTube channel. I did it for another kid. What's his name? Morgan, who's like a number 2 in Canada Irish dancer. He's 13, quite a kid. So it's on there. I sent it to you. I want you to get familiar with it. It's a Highland pipe tune. That's why the first Highland pipe tunes are all the same. First part is main theme. Second part is a variation. Third part is a variation, and the last part is always the most rhythmic part. And that's because they only have 9 notes, so that's how they have to expand on their melodies with rhythm. This is a very typical Highland pipe tune and very well known. So I suggest you take a look at that, familiarize yourself, and we'll tuck into it next week, and we'll add it to the end of this set because it's in the right key, and we'll practice our cuts. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Dan.
No problem, guys. We'll see you next Monday, and
Yep.
have a good week.
Mm.